So when we think about the overall remote worker digital experience, if we try to divide this end-to-end experience into different drivers, different components, we've got to think that way. So at the top, you've got the user level, and then the VPN or the CASBs, which sit in the middle, and then all of this is already hosted and connected to through public networks. And then you've got the different host names that are going to try to connect to. The first driver we have to pay attention to is the overall latency between users and clouds. And as you mentioned, that can vary drastically depending on the region, depending on
time of day.
And also depending on the application structure. So how spread the host names of the applications you're trying to connect to or at a global scale. Each host name might change their DNS resolution throughout the day. So at some point you might be connected very locally, and at some point you might cross the Atlantic to connect to one application. Second driver is everything we put in the middle to secure that connectivity. So VPNs, SASE, CASBs, they all have their own behavior, and they had some processing on the way. So a VPN has a layer, it has some form of processing to actually encrypt the traffic and secure it.
Yeah, there's authentication coming.
So that's another driver that has a huge impact. And finally, there's a question on what is going to be the path between those gateways and the actual application, or not the application, but the whole set of components of those applications. And that is also, when we look further, obviously, a lot of those applications are rendered by browsers. The one thing which you have to know is that browsers basically aren't magic. So they receive data.
Simple animals,
They have limitations as far as the number of pieces of data they can receive at once. They've got their limitations as to how much throughput they can accept. They have limits. They have a work to do and basically some processing to do to be able to show the data to a user. That takes time. That's another driver. And then you're receiving data. There's no magic either. The data transfer depends on the throughput that you have on your line. And the last one is obvious. Every time you make a request to a server, there's a processing happening at the server, and it takes time for them to start responding and transferring data. So that's also another driver which matters. So all of that is basically the whole set of drivers you need to have an eye on to make sure that your remote users get the quality of service they need to deliver their work.